In response to the surging numbers, the governor is asking people to stop dining indoors and for a 2-week pause in in-person learning and youth sports.
7 Action News reporter Jennifer Ann Wilson is learning youth sports don't plan on making any changes. Jennifer Ann, why is that?
Well, some that I have spoken with say they are doing contact tracing and they just don't see any proof that cases are being contracted due to youth sports, due to practices or to games. That often when athletes get these cases, it's from social activities outside of the actual sport. And high school to high school, district to district, everyone is making slightly different choices. Here in Ferndale, they'll be pausing indoor sports, but outdoor sports like baseball and softball can continue.
I'm questioning why we're targeting the kids that suffer the most through this pandemic.
MARCEL SCHMID with nonprofit South Oakland Youth Soccer has more than 1,000 kids in the program, and he says they play wearing masks. They get tested. And none of his athletes have gotten COVID-19.
We even suspended this week's practices because we know that a lot of families went on spring break. We wanted to give them some time, get tested, and so we are very careful.
And yet cases of the virus and hospitalizations in the state continue to skyrocket. In a press conference this morning, Governor Whitmer and Dr. Janae Caldoun asked youth sports to pause for 2 weeks to help stop the spread.
Between January and March, we saw 291 outbreaks associated with youth sports teams, both contact and non-contact sports, that involved at least 1,091 people.
Compare those numbers to the nearly 15,000 new cases identified between today and yesterday alone, and the math just doesn't make sense to Schmidt.
This is now almost looks like we're looking for a scapegoat, and it's soccer and it's youth sports. When people travel to Florida, to Texas, and allowed to do it without testing.
It is not just the kids going back into school or people going to sports. I think there is a broad, there's not one person we can't point to. I think we all have to own this.
They're seeing exponentially increased hospitalizations of younger patients as well as previous COVID patients returning with long-term side effects.
Regardless of if you've been vaccinated or not, you have to continue to social distance and use hand hygiene and absolutely wear a mask.
Novi Schools released a statement saying, in part, we plan to continue our spring sports programming as scheduled, adding that safety measures and rapid testing will continue as well. And from school districts to club teams, it seems
we're trying our hardest. We comply. We do not say any reasoning why we should pause.
Now, remember, the state did institute new testing requirements for sports, even sports that are happening outdoors. Those testing requirements will be honored by everybody I spoke with. They'll continue to test and take precautions. But what about in-person learning? That was another request from Governor Whitmer to put on pause. Coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll tell you what we found out speaking to school districts around the area and how they plan to move forward as the cases continue to rise. Reporting live, I'm Jennifer Ann Wilson, 7 Action News.
All right, Jennifer Ann, thank you for the update.